All right, everybody, welcome to episode 10 of Unwinding with Support Group. I'm Arlene, an LPC, and with me tonight I have Bree. She works in the mental health field. I am drinking a Jamaica Me Glow again today, the Seagram's Escape. I'm really almost out of these things. I'm really just gonna drink wine next week, I think. But Bree, what do you have to drink
Uh,
tonight?
I'm with you. I'm finishing off this case of these Simply Lemonades or Limeades, and it's getting to the point where I just am not enjoying them to the same extent that I was before. But I am
Oh, you're
drinking,
like,
it's a
thanks,
cherry one.
Mom.
I
Which
know,
one are you
right?
drinking?
20 freaking 4-pack, and now I gotta finish them. I'm still an angstrom. I can't throw away liquor.
What flavor was yours?
It's cherry today.
Ooh, cherry, spicing it up.
Oh yeah, yeah. None of that regular one was kind of whack.
Yeah, that did, just oh, all right. So today's topic, we're going to discuss the value in self-diagnosing, but also the harm and then not following through with like a professional. Um, so Bree, would you like to start this, or would you like me to start this?
Let's start. I personally love self-diagnosing. I think that you got to start somewhere and nobody knows you better than yourself. But that being said, I love proper self-diagnosing, not watching TikToks and determining that you have something because TikTok said so. Maybe that stems down to my deep hatred of TikTok. Uh, but I think that there can be a lot of danger in not recognizing what a disorder might really be. And self-diagnosing, as great as I think it is also dangerous because you could be putting a incorrect label on yourself and trying to treat an incorrect diagnosis. But overall, I do think it's very beneficial because again, nobody knows you the way that you know yourself, and you can tell somebody a million different things in that diagnosing session, but you really know what's going on with you, and you really are living all of the symptoms that you might be experiencing.
I agree. I do think there is value in some self-diagnosing, as like a good jumping off point. Um, for a lot of the reasons you just said, right? Like nobody knows you better than you know you. You have to live with the symptomology. You have to live with how it feels, what you're thinking, like what's going on inside your head, what's been like all of the things you are living with, like how it's impacting your life, how it's impacting your relationships, your employment, like all of the consequences of it, like it's all yours. And there is a big value in going, hey, I think I might have this. Um, when you see a professional, because hell, we just met you for the first time in an assessment. Um, and as a mental health professional, d- I'm I'm an expert in the field. I'm not an expert in you. You are the expert in you. And so being able to kind of meet in the middle of that, like, is super important. Um, to be able to say, like, hey, I think I might be struggling with this. And then we go further. Uh, it's I think you take the same approach with like medicine. You sort of know what's going on with you when you go to the doctor. You might not know all of it, what it's called, but you kind of know. It's the same thing, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to talk about the symptoms more than the diagnosis is helpful because that's really what you do. Like when you've got a physical illness, right? You go to the doctor, you say, "Hey, doc, X, Y, and Z has been happening. What's going on with me?" It's the same thing when you go to a mental health professional. It's, "Hey, doc, X, Y, and Z is going on. Please label this this issue that I'm having so I can find some peace.
Yeah, and I don't the some people find a lot of comfort in the label because it helps them identify it. Sometimes it's like, ah, yes, this explains all the things. I have an answer. Like my life now makes sense. And sometimes it's just a thing. Because like you said, we're treating symptoms, right? Like ultimately, if I lived in a world where I didn't have to diagnose people because insurance didn't dictate it, I'd just treat symptoms. Because this goes back to the conversation we had last week about stigma. So if I didn't have to diagnose with like, hey, this is the thing, I probably wouldn't. But we live in the world we live in. So everything must have a label.
Especially if you want insurance to pay for it.
Especially because, you could still, I need to be careful before I don't go on an insurance tangent. Um, because
What do you mean? We love insurance.
Lord knows I can do a great insurance tangent. Um, but uh, they are like this is what you have to do. So and I do know like plenty of people are like, okay, like yes, this diagnosis makes sense to me, and like they resonate with it. So I'm not necessarily saying that diagnosing is inherently bad. Um, it does have flaws. It doesn't include every population of people. It's the DSM in itself is built off of like, you know, same thing most things are white dudes. Uh, but it's still a good basis for like these are symptoms. It doesn't necessarily, you know, fit all the things and all the stuff because, well, episode for another time. How women and minorities have also been neglected, not just in the medical field, but you know, in the mental health field, um, in like how diagnoses are treated, um, whatever. But so this is where I go back to some self-diagnosing is important because the DSM isn't perfect, but also it's symptoms. And I think if you just follow on like a 30-second TikTok that tells you these symptoms mean you have ADHD and these symptoms tell you have autism, well, those symptoms overlap for both those disorders because most symptoms for most disorders overlap.
Yes. And it goes down to how often are they happening? What intensity are they happening? All the other things that a doctor would be able to identify just in the way that you're describing said symptoms.
Yeah. Um, just for fun, here's a great story, Bree. When I was doing my master's degree and I took my diagnosing class, I had the most fun with the DSM. It was the greatest time of my life.
Really?
God, I loved it.
What
It
did
was
you
like
love so much about it?
I enjoyed just uh reading the depth and the disorders, consuming like the different pieces of it to be able to differentiate this disorder from this disorder. Well, and you know how much of a nerd I am. That probably shouldn't shock you.
Oh,
Um,
Or
but I would be like, oh, and I would like, we would be reading about like having to do a certain thing on this disorder, and I'd be like in a whole other section of the DSM just for fun. Because fuck it,
your
why
own
not?
world.
I was having a great time. But here's the thing. First rule of DSM, it's like Fight Club. Except for the first rule is we don't talk about it. The first rule is don't diagnose yourself. Do you know why?
Probably because you're struggling with said mental illness and your insight is not the most clear.
It's because if you read through the DSM, you could diagnose yourself with everything in there.
Oh, yeah, well, you're not wrong. Like you said, all these symptoms, they overlap.
Yes. It's also often why people are misdiagnosed, is because symptoms overlap. And if someone doesn't understand like the totality of a different like diagnosis, or like the entire story isn't being explained, or it's just not grasping, there's like a miscommunication between people, misdiagnosis happen. Or you just get a provider whose favorite diagnosis is bipolar.
Ah, yes, we love those.
We love the bipolar diagnosis. We actually do not. But so just these are things to keep in mind. Like so a 30-second video or a minute video that explains like symptomology to you, and you're like, yes, I have those, it doesn't mean you have that specific disorder. Do you know how many disorders have interruptions with sleep?
Like
Sleeping
every
too much,
disorder.
sleeping too much, or sleeping too little. So many. So it's
Couldn't
a
really
giant
tell you
one
one
for
that does.
depression. It's a giant one for depression, but there's like 9 other disorders where that can fall under. So it's just, I think we're going back to like, it's a good starting place.
It is, and it's a good reference point to, I hate to use the word argue, but a little bit of arguing with your provider that's diagnosing you, because sometimes they're going to diagnose wrong. Like Arlene said, they're just meeting you. They have no idea who you are. And a lot of times diagnoses happen in the first session or two where you're just reiterating what's happened in the past. And sometimes they get it wrong, and that's okay. Sometimes it takes a few tries to figure out what's really going on with you and a few different tests and tricks and tips. Um, but having some of that knowledge of what a disorder is, what it looks like, and how it can manifest itself can also help you kind of have those educated discussions with your provider and make sure that what you're being diagnosed with is as accurate as possible.
Yeah. I it's there there can be like the other piece of like not following through and just being like, I have ADHD, right? Um Means that you might be missing out on like other things it could be, right? Like what is one of the biggest pieces of like ADHD? Bree.
Inability to focus, racing thoughts,
Yeah. What else has that? What else could present that way?
depression, anxiety.
There we go. OCD,
OCD.
right? Like,
Right? Sometimes it's
and
just life.
right. So like this one's even funny because this one could actually be bipolar because your hyperactivity might be mania. Like there are things of being able to like there are, and not that I'm saying medication always has to be an answer, but it might be. Um, and being able to just like, this is what it is because I read it or I watched it. I saw it on the TikTok because, good God, that's everybody's favorite phrase to me. You know what I
Go
saw on
on.
TikTok? And I'm just like, oh, fuck, here we go. Um, but
How often do you get that as a provider, that diagnosis occasionally? How often do you get, I saw this on TikTok and I think that I might be struggling with it? Is that something that's common for you?
4 times a week.
Yay.
um, Once I'm established with somebody, probably way less, but in the beginning, yeah. And I'm not like,
Interesting.
again, we're back to it's a great starting point. It is. I'm glad that like you saw something that went, holy fuck, I should see a professional. Um, but you saw 7-10 minute videos, and then once you paid attention to the first one, the algorithm is now feeding you all of these things and are now telling you you have autism. So because that one, that's the one. That's the one that I get the most of. I think I might have autism.
There has been a giant increase in just what I've seen, like at work and whatnot, of people who are kind of diagnosing themselves. Because I don't always think that they have a proper diagnosis with autism. I've
It's
noticed
a
that.
it's a spectrum for a reason. Lots of things that fall on it. But again, there are many things that can look like it as well, that aren't necessarily it. And I'm not necessarily saying that it isn't it either. But I also know once you've clicked on the video, I know how algorithms work. Now it's a self-fulfilling video that you're watching that's just continually telling you you probably have autism. And I know right now that one's scarier because of all the things that are going on in our world, specifically in the United States of America. Um, but um, so I know that one feels a little scarier right now, and understandably so. It's autism is a complicated diagnosis. There's a reason there is testing for it. And it's not just something you go to like a social worker or a therapist for, because there's a lot that's involved in that.
Mm.
So, and you know, different things look like different. We're back to overlapping things. So, and I don't like to, it's a hard diagnosis. And I know many people in the autism community um, self-diagnose and they're accurate because you're back to the thing you started this with. They know themselves way better than anybody else does.
You are the biggest expert in yourself, whether you know it or not.
So, but there is that following up does help to like ensure you are getting the support you need. Um, Even though right now that that one probably feels terrifying to be anywhere near someone with a label right now. Oh, so, but yeah. Uh, does anybody ever come in with you and tell you they think they have something other than a substance use problem?
It's pretty rare. A lot of the individuals I work with, substance is their main concern. And maybe they'll come in and say, I have depression or I have anxiety. But a lot of the individuals I work with are also in a state in which they're maybe not as, they don't have the insight currently that is needed to self-diagnose oneself, if that makes sense.
It does.
Um, just a combination of whatever they may be struggling with and their substance use sometimes warps that insight ability. Um,
Matrix.
but at one of my, side jobs, they definitely come in and they say all the time. And my side job, I work with just mental health in general, so not specific to substance. But they'll come in all the time and say, "Yep, I've got this, I've got this, I've got that." And when you ask them what their background and what treatments look like for them, they go, "Well, I've never been in treatment before. This is something new to me." Uh, and kind of diving into that, it's a lot of times social media has an influence on that, which again can be really good. But like you mentioned, there's so many different reasons why you might be feeling a certain way that the algorithm is just going to focus on that one that you spent the most time on. And yeah, I think that a lot of times it just takes people meeting with a professional and kind of exploring the fact that there could be other reasons why they're feeling a certain way to kind of get them out of that mindset. But I've definitely experienced folks that'll come in and are dead set on this is what's going on with me, and you can't tell me any differently, because I just know because I saw it online.
I just know,
And like
by
you
the
said,
way.
maybe they do. Maybe they're right. Sometimes they are right. But
You're right. Sometimes people are spot on, right? Like again, where you do know you are the expert in you. Um, but it is just sometimes right to have that confirmation. You're on the right path. So I agree. And I also love that you're in the closet.
I am in the closet today.
It's, been a little while since we've met and you've been in the closet.
Taking it back to olden days.
Harkening back to the times where Brie was always in the closet. Literally, not figuratively. Yeah. It's a literal closet, not a metaphoric closet.
I do love my closet is my safe space. Always has been, always will be.
But if you'll remember, like as we were talking like through things at the beginning, every time I brought up a diagnosis or something, I was running through the DSM. And that's why, is because like you knowing like what it is, instead of just like the clips of here's like the highlights of the diagnosis. That was a big reason why in our earlier episodes I always went through what it was. um, because it can get so misconstrued in a social media world. And not like our podcast isn't going to be part of that, but also like here is like the whole piece of what it is. So um there's just, important parts of that as well. But I do I do think there are this is where it's weird of like the benefits of how social media helps people like improve their awareness or feel seen, which I love. And then it sometimes that it's that algorithm piece of like where it narrows it in, and sometimes it gets pigeonholed into something that it isn't always. But I guess, you can never win in the social media part of it.
You cannot.
So, so I guess, we gotta take the wins with, gotta take the bad with the good, I suppose. Such is life. Um, when when I was first struggling with depression, I self-diagnosed myself, and that was before my degree, because like I knew I was depressed. Like I knew it. Couldn't get out of bed. You know what I mean? Had no motivation. Uh, wasn't interested in shit. You know, had thoughts of wanting to die. Depression. You know, standard depression. It's fine. Um, and being able to recognize that also meant went to the doctor and was like, "Listen, buddy, we need to do something about this because I can't, I can't function this way." Um, and it's important to be able to like balance that up. Like you can knowing what a thing is because like you do know it. And there's some things that are super like you have anxiety and like it's generalized anxiety because you feel anxious for no reason and it's um you're just anxious. Um or you're having panic attacks, like panic disorder. That makes sense unless like you're having unprompted panic attacks. Um, you have a specific phobia. You don't like heights, you don't like storms, you don't like spiders. Some of the stuff is super easy to do on your own. Um, it's being able to go with like, all right, then like, um, what are you going to do about it? I think is really the end of it. Um, so really being able to identify that, I really think is important. And
I would agree.
because again, are you ready? You're the expert in you, which is something I tend to say a lot in therapy.
I think sometimes it's hard to remember that, especially when you have people who are very close to you. Hard to remember that you're the one who's going to know you best, even when it feels like somebody else might know better or is telling you they know better. You're going to know more at the end of the day, all of the things that you don't say, all of the things that you don't do.
Yeah. So I really think it's just remembering you do know you. Um, and if you get a diagnosis from a professional and it doesn't feel accurate, you can say that.
Argue with
I-
them. It's important.
Like you can be like, this doesn't feel right. Like I don't think that's accurate. Can we revisit that? Like arguing doesn't mean like, bitch, fuck you, you're wrong. I
Sometimes it
mean,
does.
it
Sometimes a
can
good
be.
bad guy.
It can be. It can be like, fuck you, hoe. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You suck. It totally can be. But it also can be like, I don't feel like that's accurate. That doesn't depict what I was describing. I feel like you might have missed it, something I've said. Like there's a lot of ways you can have that. Um, especially if you might be afraid making them upset. You're worried about the power differential, like things like that. Like if you don't feel like it's an accurate thing, then like you can have that conversation. You can be like, listen, dude, I don't feel like that's just the truth. Um, that just doesn't feel like it is. And have that conversation, whether it's that session, the next session, like have that. We're back to you are the expert in you. And your provider should not get defensive. They should have that conversation with you and be able to explain why calmly and rationally they diagnose that and hear you out and make changes or have that discussion where you guys come to like some agreement. Um, I will share this, right? Like when I was working specifically with um, obsessive compulsive disorder, I lost track of the amount of time people would come in misdiagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I like lost track of the amount of times. Um, but one time sticks out to me specifically because this person was like really married to the idea that they had generalized anxiety disorder, like had wrapped piece of their like identity into it. And I knew like I was like that's explaining that you don't she didn't have generalized anxiety because it all belonged in the OCD, right? So therefore not general. But we had the conversation and I understood that she felt very strongly about the generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. So I kept it because she felt strongly about it. Over time and working together, she was able to recognize A, we didn't need to have our diagnosis be so much a part of our identity, but also it wasn't actually that. But she'd had that diagnosis since she was a kid. Like, it doesn't have to be a thing. You just have conversations with people. Like, and I mean that from a client perspective and a professional thing. Like, you can come to a place where, like, you're getting help because whether it's anxiety or OCD, I'm doing the same treatment. It didn't really fucking matter.
I think
And
that's a really
that's,
powerful story of somebody learning to accept their diagnosis too. Like part of self-diagnosing, I think it brings a comfort to somebody and makes you feel better about what's been going on. And it's nice to see that that individual was able to kind of work through that and find comfort in what was really going on and kind of let go a little bit of the original diagnosis.
no, I'm not going to fight a battle somebody wasn't ready to fight just so I can be right. What the fuck I get out of that?
Well, this goes back to me determining that you're a good therapist because some therapists would love to have that fight.
Okay, why do I need to be right? I mean, I understand that you're correct, that there are like that does exist. But why do I need to be right? She just needs help. And that's the end of it. And that's the end of it. We could have called it her fucking disorder a zebra for all I gave a fuck. Like it's for me, it's never about that. Like, but it's helping someone come to acceptance of what is because that's healthy. That's a different thing. So really that's like I share that story because I think that's important to know that like these conversations happen and they should happen. They just should. So, but all in all, I will say self-diagnosing is helpful. All the fuckery that comes with it as well, it's still helpful, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, the Facebook.
Facebook, if you're old like me,
That's why I said it, the Facebook,
the Facebook.
the Facebook. Um, wherever you get your socials, you find it on the Snapchats. There's so many social media, I can't name them all. I don't, wherever you find it, you get your information. Like that stuff is helpful. It is. I'm never going to disqualify that. At the end of the day, though, you probably follow that up with a provider. So,
A good starting point, not a good ending point.
correct. And there are lots of mental health providers on these platforms to help you with that starting point, as long as other people who have the diagnosis as a good starting point. There's a lot of good resources. Lots of good resources. So, so it's kind of like where you learn to swim. It's not where you jump into the deep end of the pool and stay. So, anything else you want to add, Bree?
Um, just don't let our conversation deter you from self-diagnosing or talk down about others who self-diagnose. It is very beneficial. Just make sure people are getting the help they need, the help they deserve.
I agree. I want to be, and I will reiterate that. Be clear that like we both see value in self-diagnosing. It is a good thing. It is just not the only thing. So stop. Don't judge people. God, just stop there. Don't judge people.
Not
Or
that
else it's
hard to be a nice person.
like our last episode. Don't be judgy. Don't be so judgy. And really, like, encourage people that you know in your life to reach out and get some help. Um, on that note, if you enjoy the podcast, please like us, follow us, comment on wherever you listen to this at. I don't know. We just like to kind of know that people are out there, maybe listening to us, and we're not just speaking into the void sometimes.
I
It's
do
just
that enough in my own free time.
exactly. So maybe, if we know you're out there, like us, follow us, comment, I don't know, some stuff. Tell your friends about us. Tell your enemies about us. I don't know. Secretly tell the person you're like, needs therapy about us. It's fine. Whoever. Now, whoever that person is, they'll never know which person they are. Even better, it's a mystery. So, But on that note, I appreciate whoever is listening, and I hope you all have a good the rest of your day, evening, time, whatever part of your day you're listening. Enjoy it.
Yes, enjoy it.